Well, for Friday briefing, I'm actually joined in our studio by Alf Cannan, who is the Treasury Minister, but also technically, he may disagree, the Deputy Chief Minister, in the sense that when Howard's away at the moment, Mr. Quayle, you are in charge, correct?
At this period of time, Paul, I am in charge.
Fine. Can I go to? I talked to an MLC during Tony yesterday, and he produced this document which came through his letterbox, indicating the salaries of the top civil servants. This, of course, would be no surprise to you if it's true, because I have to keep saying that it's not been verified. I certainly wouldn't know if it's true or not, but you would. And do I have any comment about these sort of structures? And well, first of all, is it? Do you want to make a comment? Are these numbers correct on what your civil servants are getting?
Well, a lot of these salaries are no big secret. We all know there is a number of people, a number of civil servants in the government who are receiving high salaries, very high salaries in some cases. Some
you think they're high?
Well, when you're talking, it's any salary over £100,000 is going to be high, depending, you know, how which point of view you're taking. But absolutely, I mean, you have to look very carefully at whether you're receiving value for money. There's a lot. You know, let's be frank, a lot of chief executives, we know that the very senior officers in government are paid very well, and it's something that we do need to look at and look at very carefully. I think as a government we do continue to monitor salaries. We've been very careful over the last 6 years, before my time even, with Minister Tier, who brought in the 1% cap to try and control the rate of growth in salaries. So it is something that we're always looking at, and
I mean, they're getting paid more than you,
of.
aren't they? Basically, most of these top ones are getting much more than what an MHK gets, even with your extra uplift. I mean, is this correct? Do you think this is the right way for a small island to have so many high flyers? Well, I think
you're looking primarily at the chief executives of the departments there. Yeah. You've got a list of the chief executives of the department. They're all earning either just on £100,000 or up to the chief secretary at £150,000, and it's questionable. But you know, when you take the Department of Health, for example, and you're looking at someone like Malcolm Couch, you have to sometimes accept what the market rate is to find people with the skills, ability, and experience to do these. So. Yes, it is something that we're always conscious of. As a Treasury Minister, you know, I am very keen to get on top of pay, make sure that we are delivering value for money for the public, and that people in these roles, in these very senior roles with big salaries, are being held to account and managed properly to ensure that they are delivering what they're supposed to deliver.
The headcount has been going up, isn't it, in government as well? Are you worried about that?
Yeah, I am being a bit concerned about some of the figures that have been coming out. In fact, I will be writing to Chris Thomas as the Policy and Reform Minister, asking him to do a little bit of work for me before the budget, just to try and understand how accurate the figures are that are coming. There are obviously some seasonal fluctuations within government, so it does depend to a certain extent the time of year. But I am very keen to know on the core baseline of jobs exactly where we are from say 5 years ago, and whether our policies have in fact been successful in terms of refocusing public services so that we are actually trying to deliver more directly to the public in more efficient ways, without growing the administration factor that often sits behind the delivery of these services.
You mentioned budget in there, so you're already on the thing. I mean, you had some good news, I think, in the sense that your receipts are up, and the tax receipts are up. The population seems to have recovered on the way up a bit. Is this all adding to a good news for you as you do the sums? Or
well,
is it
we will be in a clear. I'll be in a clearer position to fully understand the projections, probably about the end of October. But so far, the indicators are very positive from an economic perspective. I mean, I can tell you that. We are being told that there are more people, more net inflow of people to the island. We can clearly see that there are now more people in employment than there were. I can see that the receipts are much better than we originally forecast. But clearly, things can change on that front, so that you can't actually get the real accurate projection until very, very close to the budget. So there's a number of positive factors out there, but of course, you know, we're still dealing with a huge range of other issues, and those issues need to be tackled.
And Mr. Turner made these announcements yesterday that he, on his figures, living in the northwest of England, a family of four is better off there, which is quite a surprise to a lot of people who think that here is meant to be a better place with the tax regime, etc. I think,
sorry, I think just to go back to my previous conversation, I mean, whilst there is improvement in the economy, of course, we are still living beyond our means as an island. You know, we set out a 5-year plan to address that, Paul, and that's what we're doing. And Mr. Turner's comments, Mr. Turner's rant. I mean, some of us came.
You're calling it rant as well.
Well, some of us came into politics to do something about the issues, to tackle the issues, to deliver some outcomes for people, and we're all aware of what those issues are. And it's all very well Mr. Turner shouting and screaming on the sideline. We all know we need to be tackling bureaucracy. We all know we need to be tackling issues around the cost of living. We all need to be tackling issues around our public services and delivery factors.
Was he wrong in what he said?
Well, what I can say is that it's all very well doing that sort of rant, but we know that, and trying to be a bit more specific, Paul, because it's such a generalised rant, but we all know that, you know, in recent years the weight of bureaucracy is become something that's starting to become an issue. But that's why, as a government, as a Treasury Minister, I'm very happy to see us investing millions of pounds into digital technology to try and reduce the weight of that bureaucracy.
But he's saying people are better off in the northwest of England, a family of four. I mean, you must do the maths on that one. I mean, surely I don't.
I think, Paul, what you'll find is that's probably pretty subjective. I mean, you would have to analyse that in terms of what does he mean better off? Does he mean better off financially being in the northwest of England, or
which I mean, and of course you don't know about the pay structure, but
you know, it may well be. But I mean, particularly if you're in the sort of low to mid sector wages, that financially down to the pound, if you just did a basic calculation. But what the great thing about this island, and why I believe in the island, and why I believe that we have a far better offering than the northwest of England, is first of all, we have a fantastic quality of life. Secondly, on the whole, we have a very strong and supportive society. Thirdly, that we've got real opportunities here for people to develop their lives, to help their families grow and develop. They can do that easily, very accessibly. We heard this morning a union say we had a world-class education system. We've got fantastic sports facilities, fantastic volunteers. So when you're raising children, when you're looking as a young family developing, a fantastic place to be. And the other thing is, of course, we have fantastic support networks as well, strong third sectors, so that actually people, when they do slip outside the system, have that. And the other thing is, it's all very well, Mr. Turner, advocating going to the northwest, but of course, it doesn't fail to say that you could be stuck on a train for 2 to 3 hours trying to get to work, that unemployment's higher than the Isle of Man. So
world-class education, as you brought that one up, I mean, the union wants a big pay rise, and they were slandering that everyone, they were stating, not to use the right word, they were stating that a lot of people want to leave the industry, you know, come out teaching. I mean, that was quite a headline story. You know, so
well, I haven't.
Give him 5% pay rise.
Well, I haven't seen the results. I haven't seen this survey, nor have I sat down with the Education Minister yet to talk about his department, his budget needs going forward. So I'm not really in a position to comment with any great detail. But I certainly have not. I mean, I appreciate there's pay pressures throughout the public sector. There is, but there's pay pressures throughout the private sector as well. What we are striving to do is to get that balance right. All these issues again are going to be looked at in the run up to the budget, and we'll decide how and whether there is in fact a better way to address things for in the next 12 months.
The Manx Gas scenario, the situation that was going on the other day with the demonstration. It's the first sort of the commoners are rising and fighting back. Were you did you have an opinion about the demonstration and their cause and the concerns?
Well, I think it would be naive not to listen carefully when people feel strong enough about an issue to want to come and demonstrate outside the Parliament building. You know, I am looking into the matter. It was interesting. I was doing a bit of research the other night to myself, just reading at home, and you know, I look back to 2004 actually, and Tynwald was in uproar about gas prices some 14 years ago or 13 years ago.
Before this,
and in fact, it appears this issue has been going on and floating around since 2000.
Right.
It led to a Council of Ministers report on energy pricing in 2008. Not much happened after that, but then we ended up with this agreement in 2015, a voluntary
I was going to say,
agreement.
it wasn't compulsory by any means.
It wasn't.
Both sides came together on that, didn't they?
It wasn't. And I will be meeting, and I am meeting Manx Gas Managing Director and senior executives on Monday, and I will be chatting to them about their pricing structures. And I need to get some more, but I do need some more facts, Paul. And one of the things I'm struggling to understand a bit more is this issue of the standing charges, which really seem at the heart of what the protests are talking about, as to whether in fact, how negative these have been, because the only evidence I've seen have been two comparative bills that have been presented to me over the last 2 years. One which shows somebody saved £20 overall, in overall terms, and another one that somebody saved £2. But of course, all these things are very subjective. I do accept that our utility prices generally are high. There is a reason for that. When you live on a small island, the costs of the infrastructure are often the same as providing for a much greater population base. So therefore our costs naturally can be higher. But there is work to do. We are taking, and I am going to take a very factual approach to this. I need to drill down, understand the issues on both sides, and then we need to take some proper action. But at this stage, it looks like the next course for government will be to consider either A, how best to renegotiate the deal, or secondly, what type of legislation needs to be brought in so that we get proper regulatory control over
maybe
gas.
this kind of all heads back to where we started with this thing about living in the Northwest, because people are used to having smaller energy prices in the UK, and here it is a bit of a shock. MUA, very quickly, I keep hearing rumours there's going to be major announcements on this debt. Any comment on that at this stage?
Well,
they've got massive debt, right?
I think what you will see, Paul, last year, particularly when I was standing for Chief Minister, there were a number of MHKs who were very keen that including myself, that we looked at the debt structure around the MUA and the cost.
That's what I'm hearing.
Well, I don't know what you're hearing, Paul.
Right. Well,
I'm just telling you what the facts are.
Okay.
This is the facts. Okay.
Right.
So last year, you may remember that. Well, I took that to Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers were very keen that was supported. We've instigated a review into the Manx Utilities Authority in terms of the debt levels, the impact of that on society, the impact of that on pricing, and we are expecting that the results of that review will be brought forward in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
So there could be some interesting news.
Well,
you know,
we are digesting. We've had the results of that review.
Right.
It's quite right that we're given time to consider the conclusions that have been drawn from that review, and how best that then we need to move forward. So that is on the cards. And as I said, when I have gone through that proper process and spoken to the Council of Ministers about that report, then we will be in a position to tell people what action, if any, we are going to propose.